Welcome back to Running with Coach Tori.
And Jeff.
And we are bringing you the running news for the week, whether it's to listen on your long run or to chit chat with your running group. We've got you covered. So, any running updates since it's like kind of nice weather now?
Yeah, I did do a 4-mile run, but I'll call it a 4-mile run, walk, run, Jeffing. So yeah, I did that 2 days ago, so I'm probably due for another run today. How about
That's
you?
exciting. Yeah, kind
Yeah,
of.
no, how about you?
Getting back into the swing of running. I feel like it's just so hard once like you were, been sick and whatever else, but also went to the gym for the first time in I don't know, 4 years, I guess, like actually the gym. I did
You
a
went to
workout.
an outside gym?
No, I went to the YMCA. We worked out at the
Oh,
Y.
I consider. I mean, I meant versus your garage.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, no, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's great.
Yeah, and my body was dying. So Maria like works out all the time, right? And I run all the time, but I don't do a lot of strength. And if I do, it's like very light. And she's like, "All right, this is the warm up," and we're doing the warm up, and it was just like a 12-minute warm up, which would kind of felt long, but I'm like, after 10 minutes, I'm like, wow, my quad is like ripped and my knee hurts now. I'm like, what's the workout? Because I am dying already. So, definitely was sore for a couple days. And, but I was like, okay, this would be good. Like, I'll get back into strength. And then I texted her if we were going to do it this week. And she's like, do you want to go do something else instead? I'm like, oh no, that means next time I'm going to be sore all over again. So we'll see. But the running's been okay. I've kind of decided I'm doing shorter distances, so I'm not like planning on these hour plus runs, but keeping in between like 30 to 50-minute runs, and that seems to be working. So
Yeah, probably a good zone to be in. I mean, it probably keeps you from getting injured. So, and
yeah.
keeps you in shape. So you
Right.
can expand it if you need to, if you want to do a half marathon, or contract if you want to just stick to 5Ks.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like, I'm training for nothing, so it doesn't really matter what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. So, but back to lifting, a 12-minute warm up. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm not big on warm ups. To me, it just ends up extending the amount of time. Now,
Yeah.
again, probably the wrong answer, which is probably some middle ground where you could do a little bit of warming up. 12 minutes just seems like probably the high end of warm ups.
Yeah, so and it was like a workout warm up. Like it was like weighted squats and kettlebell swings. So like
You
warm
just
up in quotes. It was
Yeah,
like a mini workout.
yeah, you just call
Um,
it the workout. Like we're gonna start the workout. We're gonna start light, and then we're gonna just build up to heavy.
well, that's why I said to her, I was like, this is like this warm up is like what I would normally do, which is why I'm not getting any stronger, obviously. But yeah, I mean, when I used to do CrossFit though, like there was always like a lengthy warm up process, but a lot of it was like dynamic stretching, like some technique, figuring out like your form for whatever like the heavier lift you're gonna do. So like it was like a 15-minute process, but again, it's like a lot of standing around, like whatever Superman stretch across the floor and whatever else you're doing. Um, so a workout as disguised as a warm-up was a lot, but I do think especially if you're like lifting heavy, that kind of does help because you're getting your brain connecting to your muscles, so you're not getting hurt, blah blah blah. um yeah, it's definitely not my thing though. Like I still don't warm up for runs most of the time. So
Yeah, I mean, again,
you know.
probably we talked about before. I mean, I'm not running that hard, and if you're doing a hard workout, I do understand. Or if you're doing a race, I do understand warm up is probably a good idea. But
Mm-hmm.
for most 80% of our runs, right? It's supposed to be easy runs. I don't know what a warm up's going to be doing for an easy run. Maybe like some hip stretches a little bit, but yeah, again, to me, the slow pace run is the warm up. So
Right. Well, and then there's those people who get that heart rate spike, as soon as they start, even on an easy run, like you go out to just start jogging and their heart rate just, shoots through the roof. And that's like where a warm up of some kind would be beneficial, but I don't feel like I have that. But anyway,
we jump into the
enough
news.
enough slamming the warm ups. Well, I have a different guessing game, probably like
Oh, good.
less
I like
fun.
this.
And this is probably even like harder than, I don't know. So I was thinking of a couple races that happen in March, since we're in March. And they're like, I believe, relatively well-known races. So I was going to have you guess what the course record is for the race.
Okay.
Okay, so the Little Rock Marathon, which is usually early March, the course record for the men was set this year. Do you
Little
have a
Rock.
guess of what it
I'm
was?
gonna assume that's Arkansas.
Sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know.
And I'm gonna assume that I don't know the landscape for Arkansas. It sounds a little rugged, so I'm gonna say it's not gonna be record breaking time. It's not in the for men. You said right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So for men, I'm gonna say the course record that was set recently is 2 hours and 36 minutes.
Wow, no, apparently 209:44 for men.
Wow, I
Yeah,
have underestimated the talent in Little Rock, Arkansas.
yeah, that was Aaron Saltman, I guess. And then for the women was also set this year. Um,
Okay, so
any
based on that, that gives me a good indication that the men were about 9 minutes off the world record. So women, I'm going to say 15 minutes off of their world record. So I'm going to go probably a little bit more than 15 because the world record's really come down recently. I'm going to go 2:30.
2:45:10.
Okay, so yeah,
Yeah,
that's. I mean, the world record for women is 2:09, so they're way off the world record pace.
yeah. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but that was a good strategy though to try to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, it didn't work, but it was a
No.
good strategy.
Here's another one where I feel like it might not. Um, there's kind of no method for the madness, but Napa Valley Marathon, which also is like an early March race. This was also set this year for the men. Any guesses?
Yeah, so Napa Valley, it's California wine country. I'm gonna go. It's probably set up to be a flat course, and therefore it's going to be fast. Even though there's a lot of mountains in that area, I'm gonna say fast, but not super fast. But I'm gonna go 2:10.
2:15:48. So I don't know. Maybe they found some hills in
Yeah,
wine
they probably. I mean, there are a lot of hills there you could go up. I was just assuming they set it up to be fast. It was just a total guess.
Now, women was set in 2022. Guesses on that one?
All right. So for women, since it's a little harder course, I'm gonna go 2:28.
2:38.
Okay. If I stick with my 15-minute buffer, I was there.
And then the Asheville Marathon. I only have the men's record on here, which was set in 2014.
Okay. Hasn't been broken in 11 years. Okay.
Unless they don't run it all the time, because maybe I was getting bad intel here.
Asheville. I'm not sure where Asheville is. So
Me either.
it's not giving me a real indication of maybe the terrain. So I'm gonna have to just go with 250. So it's men. All right, I'm gonna say you're gonna find there are some great athletes out there that show up for these weird marathons. So I'm gonna go 2:08.
Apparently 2:25:46 in
Wow,
2014. So I don't know what's up with that place, but
must be hard.
must
I'm
be a
gonna
tough
guess it's
course.
hard or it's a small race and doesn't attract top
Right.
talent. Although again, I'll give the person credit; they're pretty talented.
For sure. I was going to say like I don't know if it is like comparable to a Disney race where like fast people win, but like the fastest people don't run them, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um all right, well that is all I got. Oh, before getting into it, in your running news, did you see do you know what OnlyFans is?
I
It's
do
like
know what
adult.
OnlyFans is.
Oh, okay.
I have never been on OnlyFans for the record. I do know what it is though.
Did you see that the first they have their first sponsored athlete? They are sponsoring ultra marathoners now.
I did not see that.
Oh, okay, I
That's a
wasn't
little
sure if
bit.
that came
That's
up
a
in
little
your
bit
new.
weird. Is it a woman they're sponsoring?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Sabrina Stanley, the Hard Rock 100 champion, is the first runner to partner with OnlyFans as a sponsor. That's all I got.
Okay. Yeah. No. It's I mean, there are some sponsorships you would think. I mean, I don't know. I, I don't know why I should throw any shade on her or OnlyFans. I mean, it's a legit business. Um. So
Money's
I'll
money, I
leave.
guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting concept that they're trying to branch out and sponsoring runners. It seems like there's probably a thousand other directions you could go before you got to runners, but
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
UFC fighters. You could. I could think of a lot of other ones that might. Again, not to say that UFC fans are going to be more likely to be on OnlyFans than running fans, but
yeah,
I
what are
don't
you
know.
saying?
Yeah.
um,
All right.
but
So
yeah,
I'll go to some. If you've seen some news, did you see the high school girl that hit another girl in the head with a baton on
yes.
accident or on purpose? So for anyone who hasn't seen it, um, basically what you had was a relay race, and in a relay race, the runners used batons to pass to their teammates. Well, one runner was passing on a turn on the outside another runner, and she took the baton, and it appeared again at anyone's watching of this, looked like she intentionally took her arm back and struck her as hard as she could in the top of the head. The runner that got hit then basically dropped her own baton, grabbed her head, and went off the track and stopped, obviously ruining their day. The other runner that did the striking, initially gave it sort of a little bit of a hesitation, like "oh," and then kept going. Did you see the actual video?
So I have seen the video and I have seen some follow up from the video of like the girl's response. I was hesitant to say too much because I know at least the girl that got hit in the head is under 18. I know the girl who did the girl whose baton hit the other girl. She's a senior, so I'm not sure if she's 18 or not. So I just was like, I'm like, oh, tricky land to talk about, underaged or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah, I
so I
didn't use
see
any names, but I mean, I have seen in the articles they do actually use the names.
they do, yeah. Well, and the families are releasing videos and stuff now. But no, I had seen that. And actually even this morning I saw something that was like new angle of baton hitting footage sheds new light. Watched it, didn't shed any different light in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, it looks the same to me, and I think there's also the he said, she said, she said of it all. But it's like, yeah, maybe you didn't know this was gonna happen like this, or you didn't really understand like the reaction that you had, that like it was a very knee jerk reaction, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to do that, but it's like you didn't
No,
mean to
no.
you didn't mean to hurt someone. It was such a strange thing. But now I see that like her fam, she's posting things about, she's crying like this was not my intent, blah blah blah. The other girl like won't accept my apology. um all these things, they got disqualified obviously, and I think that that's rightfully so. I mean, even if you're not hitting someone with a weapon intentionally or not, like you can get disqualified for tripping people or cutting them off like too quickly. We've seen that in professional races as well. So like very unfortunate to have that happen, and I think it was a state meet, so it was probably like a big deal. But it's like, if you're fast, you're fast, and if you're gonna have a career at running, I don't think one disqualification will hinder that necessarily. So I don't think it's like a question of like, oh no, her future's ruined. But it's like,
I don't know. Maybe it should be. I don't
well, right.
know.
And it's like, yeah, but if you're gonna, it's a not a contact sport, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, well, that's the other thing too, is like how much contact is okay in other situations, right? Like, I mean, there is, you know, especially in longer distance things where like the start line, you're towing the line, you got to make some space. There is a little, we saw in was it the Olympic women's marathon where there was some pushing and shoving? I can't remember. But we've seen that in a lot of bigger races. There can be a little bit of pushing and shoving, which is definitely talked about negatively. Like no one's like, oh yeah, she was aggressive, she pushed this girl off the track, that's great. um but, if a weapon's involved, accidental or not, which I don't really understand the explanation of it being an accident. um it's not a contact sport. You're not
Yeah.
allowed to hit people with any kind of weapon just because things are not going your way. I also heard, I think it was maybe her family explaining, like, you maybe, I don't remember who was explaining this, but how you have to allow so much space when you're cutting people off or moving inside and stuff, and it's like, yeah, but anytime we're justifying a mistake with like injuring someone, like that doesn't really work. And head injuries are serious for especially young people. Your brain's still growing.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah,
girl that was struck was diagnosed with a concussion, was out of school for a week. So,
right.
I mean, that seems a little bit dramatic to me. But again, she's hitting the head by a baton. I don't know how. I mean, you've held a baton; they're not that heavy. It's not like a
No,
steel pipe, um, even
no,
though it's a round cylinder, but it's hollow. It's not heavy. Um, but again, so I'm not going to say that she milked it a little bit. Um, she was struck in the head, legitimately so. Not that it was a legitimate strike in the head. She was struck in the head,
yeah.
clearly. So I don't know. I mean, she is the girl is, I'm sure, is getting a lot of hate that did
Hmm.
the striking. Um, and yeah, it didn't come off really great. Certainly the video to me 99% sure it was intentional. That's, I'm not going to say 100%, but certainly when you watch it, it's like there's no reason you would have your hand all the way behind you, then lashing it forward, and you're staring at the woman next
Right.
to you as you do it. Um, so anyway, um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure she got a lot of hate. I'm sure she may have been a 1 second frustration where she's getting past and reaction, and now she's getting a week's worth of hate. But that's unfortunate. But that's the reality of the world we live in social media.
I
But yeah,
know.
that
That's what
scene
I was
again was
gonna.
big news. I saw that about 100 times. I did break it down like the Zapruder film, where like
Yeah.
frame by frame, like
Right.
she claimed the baton sort of got stuck on her. It's like I don't see anywhere where the baton gets sort of stuck on your shirt, and then you're trying to get your balance back. Didn't seem like that was the case.
Yeah. No, and it is such, like you said, it's such an unfortunate thing. The world that we live in with like so much social media, right? Because normally this would, not normally, but in another world where we don't have so much access to things, right? Like that team would have gotten disqualified, maybe could have ruined their potential scholarships, future, whatever it is, which would obviously be unfortunate. But like, besides, a couple people who were there who saw it and were like, wow, crazy, right? We're not talking about it. And no one's going to be sending her messages like, you did this, blah, blah, blah. Um, so yeah, no, it is unfortunate, especially because, with young people involved, it's like, it's hard even for adults, right? It's hard to have the capacity to handle strangers telling you about yourself in a negative way. So obviously that's not okay, and very unfortunate in so many different ways. But yeah, no, crazy story. And honestly, it's like sometimes I think not saying anything could serve you well, right? Because now you're
Yeah,
giving your
yeah,
explanation, more people are breaking it down. We're talking about it.
yeah. And I think it is interesting to me that when you have a video, um, it really galvanizes sort of everybody on a side for the most part. There was a football player a number of years ago who was caught on video striking his, I think, wife or girlfriend in an elevator. And there were other allegations of other players who with domestic violence, and it just seemed like those stories sort of, was there one day and then gone the next. But when there was a video, the reaction was so much different because you can see it. It's not like, well, what we didn't see what led into it, blah blah blah. It just seemed like it just galvanized everybody on one side of it that this is wrong. This, you can't do this, blah blah blah. So anyway, the video is
Yeah.
there. But for anyone who hasn't seen the video, go out and take a look at it. Draw your own conclusions. I think you're going to end up where I ended up on it, but we'll just see.
What else do you got?
Well, let's see what else I got. I've got a couple things here. I don't know if you saw Hobbs Kessler. his snack choices. So, you know, we talked about, I guess, Grant Fisher today about, you know, diet, nutrition, and all these great things that people do. Well, Hobbs Kessler is different. And for anyone who doesn't know who Hobbs Kessler is, he was probably 1 second away from winning the Olympic gold. But unfortunately, 1 second away meant that he finished fourth in the 1500 meters, behind Cole Hocker, gold medalist, Josh Kerr, silver, and then Yared Naguse, um, bronze. I think he was the fourth or fifth runner in that. Oh yeah, he must have been fifth because then Ingebrigtsen was fourth. So he's right there. He's in the mix. He's a top athlete, but his snack choices are Rice Krispie treats and Country Time lemonade. I don't mean like snack when you're on a Sunday afternoon. I mean like this is what he uses for his workouts to fuel his workouts. Um, Rice Krispie treats and Country Time lemonade. Now, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the greatest nutrition choices to me. I guess it's all just sugar, carbs, right? Is it really that bad? It seems bad to me.
So obviously I have no nutrition background.
You're a daughter of a nutritionist, so you really are you're the spokesperson for this side.
Maybe. But I mean, I was gonna say like great idea, right? Sugar, right? You get that quick boost. You got your simple carbs. I imagine like Rice Krispie treats is just like rice,
Crispy and
cereal.
treats.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't really. It's probably like rice flour, wheat flour, right? And it's not like a whole wheat, I would imagine. So again, like super simple carb there. Um,
I don't know what's in a marshmallow. I don't like marshmallows, but I don't know
I
what's in it.
know.
It's a lot of sugar, I'm sure.
Sugar, probably fats, which isn't like the greatest, I wouldn't think, but I mean, outside of that, yeah, I think that makes
It reminds me
sense,
of the
right? I
gummy
mean,
bears. Like, wasn't gummy bears like a huge thing that everyone was eating
right, because they're
before
they're
workouts?
basically the same as like the little Cliff Blocks. They're kind of the same deal.
Yeah.
Um,
All
yeah,
right.
so I
Well, I
mean,
won't.
yeah, I don't know about the lemonade again, I guess, right? It's sugar, so you're getting water, you're getting your glucose, you're good to go. Um, yeah, there what I don't remember the book, but The Planted Runner, she has a podcast, she has a book. She was on our other podcast a while ago. But her book she talks about, and she's a plant-based athlete, so she doesn't do meat, doesn't do, I don't think she doesn't do a lot of processed food, anything like that. But she talked about the difference between excuse me, difference between fueling on a run and fueling on your couch. And like how you would eat outside of your workouts is obviously like super important. That's majority of your time, the way you would need to eat all those healthy like varieties of foods, and then what it's going to look like if you're like when you're actually running. So she does talk about the distinction there and how that's different. And at least from my memory, she had recipes for like homemade, more natural, like goos, gels, eating a sweet potato on your run kind of thing. But I believe she talked about how she often is using like a processed, whatever snack. So yeah, not
Okay.
great if you're just hanging out all the time eating them, I guess. But for your run, it's a quick, easy fuel.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to give, again, he's a top athlete. I'm going to suspect he's young too, by the way. So he's probably low 20s. Um, that over time he may, you know, mature in his choices of fueling for world record type performances. I'm going to just got a couple of other quick hitters. As the president of the Jakob Ingebrigtsen fan club here in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, I just wanted to put a shout out to him. He did win the 1500 and the 3000 in the European Championships, indoor championships for the third year in a row. Go
Wow.
Jakob! So that's my commercial for him. Um, I did have a couple other ones that aren't necessarily weekly news, but more like, recent articles around running tips. So one was improving your running by running less. And, we've talked a little bit about running easy, but running less. Here's what their the top athletes in the world do that helps their training while not running. So they do dry training, so which is plyometrics, your box jumps, right? So you're a box jump. That's like a CrossFit kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so any kind of exercise, lifting, strength training, so plyometrics, deadlifts, Bulgarian split squats were the recommendations there. Um, Intermittent hypoxia training, so basically improving your cardiovascular system by restricting the amount of oxygen that it's getting on a regular basis. Like the concept of living in Denver for a year, right, where the air is thinner. You can do that at home by breathing techniques. Um, um, on your runs, you can sort of breathe through your nose. If you're an open mouth breather, it just restricts the amount of air you're getting. You can artificially restrict it by saying I'm only going to take a breath every 3 strides. So things you can do there just again make your body more efficient with oxygen. Um, Other things that are training related: sleep, nutrition. We just talked about Hobbs Kessler and his nutrition, active recovery and massages. Um, and then the train like the Kenyans, do the extremely slow runs, improve your running technique with repetition. So by running more, you will improve your technique. Your just body becomes like little micro changes in its stride technique. And then running groups so you can be more consistently running. So those were the tips for the running while you're not running.
There you go.
All right.
All right. Run less.
Run less, run less. And the last one I had was around while the world records were falling. We talked about this a few weeks ago, but we
Hmm.
sprinkled in like sort of I think all of these answers. So there was a video that you'll have linked, I'm sure, into the show notes. But he attributed 6 reasons why the world records were falling. And I think we hit them all for the most part, but I'll go right down his list: super shoes and super spikes. I know we
Hmm.
talked about super shoes. I didn't really think about super spikes.
What are super spikes?
Yeah, I guess it's really the similar technology. I don't know if they have the carbon fiber plates in them, but they do have the cushion return.
Oh. Hmm.
So yeah, so there's super spikes now that are out there. The tracks, I think you may have mentioned like with the technology on the tracks, but the manufacturer, they say they've from just 4 years ago, they've improved the technology to where there's now an energy return of additional 2%. And that
Wow.
same track is what was used in Boston for Grant Fisher's 2 world record runs. So the track technology is changing. The world record lights, I think I mentioned that last episode, how those
Oh
lights are
yeah.
really cool that they have they basically pace the runner in
Hmm.
addition to the pacers that they have for the first half of the runs. Um, Bicarb was mentioned by this YouTuber.
Wow.
Pushing world record indoors is also a new phenomena. So his view was, that the world records for indoors isn't something that people have really pushed for in the past, and therefore the records aren't necessarily at the same standard as the outdoor world records. Now that's
Okay.
probably changed in the last year. It's
Hmm.
another reason that a lot of world records seem to be falling is people are now going for them indoors. And then more scientific, more dialed in training techniques, lactic acid testing. Like, you now see those people that do basically the blood test while they're running on the treadmill. And again, the science around that to improving where you are in the threshold to improve your cardiovascular system. So I think you mentioned that, not necessarily testing, but scientific advancements in training. So those were the 6. I thought he captured all of them quite well in his video. It's relatively short, probably 15 minutes. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think we had most of them, if not all of them. So
Yeah. No, go us. We were on
yeah,
it.
we nailed it. We nailed it.
We knew what was going on. Um,
That's all
yeah.
I got
I
today.
mean, I hadn't really thought about the indoors not really being something people were focusing on. So that kind of makes sense. I know we talked about like once people are doing it, it makes it seem more achievable, but I hadn't even thought of they weren't really even going after those numbers. Um, all
Yeah,
right,
so I
I'll
think
have
now the world records indoor are getting much closer to the outdoor. Again, they're not going to be
yeah,
ever probably the same because the track is just a little tighter and a little harder to run as fast on a tighter track.
for sure. Do you have any other stories, or is that what you
That's it.
got?
Those were five today. Five sort of stories. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. That's all I got
Um,
today.
I have one-ish other thing to add. I feel like my OnlyFans was my first story. And then I moved on quickly. But this one, the headline kind of got me, and then you read the article, and it's not exactly that, but it says neither running nor walking. Scientists explain why humans are designed to sit. We never evolved to move. So I obviously clicked on this because I feel like it's the polar opposite of my favorite book, Born to Run, where it talks all about how we evolutionarily became the runners that we are, the amazing, distance athletes because of, what we did and how we are supposed to be. Um, and even how like the injuries and things we're seeing now are because we've changed all of
Shoes.
the
Yeah.
natural everything, right? So it's kind of interested to see what they had to say. And I mean, besides talking about like being able to do go on runs as like a luxury thing, a leisurely thing. Um, it's because of the life that we have now where we're not actually doing that as we are supposed to, like as we used to have to do out of necessity. So it kind of actually ends up right in line with with Born to Run, because I was like, okay, how are they going to tell me that we are supposed to be sitting all the time? Because everyone talks about like sitting is the new smoking, and sitting is why we have all these hip flexor problems and all the things, right? So basically they said, yeah, sitting all day is not great, but you also don't need to be running all the time because it's like your whatever metabolic rate just by like existing is kind of making you still function as a person or whatever it is. Obviously, I didn't really understand this article because it was like going all over the place. But basically, they were saying people are designed to have fitness as part of their lifestyle, and where it's like, we had to walk to the grocery stores or walk to get our things, do, different kinds of activities instead of having it as like are this is my leisure, this is my hobby, I'm now going on a run. So I hate all of these articles that have those misleading
Yeah.
titles.
Yeah,
um,
definitely a clickbait one that's like, no, that's not true. And then you click on it like,
right,
okay, it's actually not true. He's actually saying it's not true.
right, it got me. But then I was thinking, always back to Born to Run, um, that there is probably something to be said, and again, like your article of like run less, right? There's other ways to find, do things that are going to improve your running. um but he talks about, whether it's in that one or if it's Running with Sherman, I can't remember, but like some of his Amish neighbors that were like dominating half marathons or whatever locally because they're walking, they're biking, they're just so active, they're working on their farms and stuff, that they don't actually design like I need to have time to train for my runs, but then they go out and they run a race and they're super fit. So it just kind of got me thinking of like, if we had a different way of life, like everyone would just be great runners without having it have to be their job or your hobby. Like for us, we could all
Yeah.
be super fit.
Yeah, no, I think that would go right in line with like the Kenyan runners, right?
Hmm.
There's a I think there was they a lot of them like ran to school every day, right? So running was a big part of their life throughout life.
Right.
And here in the U.S., you're right. It's a lot more. We run much more for as a hobby than we do as part of everyday life. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, what will it mean in 1,000 years for the human evolution? What will we be a very sedimentary type type species? So who knows?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I think
worst
yeah.
movie ever, Wally. You saw Wally, right?
I did see Wally. Yes, was Wally
Yeah,
the one where the all the people were like,
in like pods where they don't move or anything anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, worst movie ever.
I thought Wally was the one where isn't he the machine that's on the ground?
Yeah, no, it makes no sense. The first half of the movie, there's like no talking, and he's just like a super sad little robot. And then I think he's going to like find the other robot friend, and somehow he's now like in a spaceship or whatever, and every people are just like immobile, in pods. They press a button and like cheeseburgers show up. Like it's horrible.
Well, next time I'm at your house and watching TV with baby James, I'll just have to put that one on because I remember that being a good movie. Maybe it wasn't.
Oh, no, we talk about it all the time that it's a horrible movie. He hasn't seen it. I'm like, we will not be watching this movie. It's
Oh,
sad.
you're gonna kill my opportunity to watch that with James.
Yeah, no. He'll find something else.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, so no, I mean, especially as a mom now too, like I mentioned, Marie, I'll have to tell her she's prominent in this podcast today. But I mean, she is into CrossFit where, a lot of CrossFit, they have benchmark workouts and like a lot of repetition year to year, as you know, right? Like they'll do the same thing the next year. And she was very into CrossFit before being a mom, and now she still works out a lot, but definitely not to the same extent or degree. And she talks about all the time, like she used to work out for hours and hours every day. Now it's a couple times a week, less than an hour for sure. And at least so far, she's put up similar, like obviously it's workout dependent, but I know like recently she was just talking about how she performed like 3 repetitions less or something than 2 years ago. And she's also done ones from 4 years ago and she's, gotten the same score, same time. So I think there's something to say too on like the way your life, obviously like you can gain some kind of fitness that you're just always going, not always, but going to carry on with you even when you're not training. But I mean, certain kind of lifestyles, like you are very busy, you're
Yeah.
moving around, picking things up, putting things down, not even really thinking about working out. And there you are. So.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for like muscle memory, right? She was obviously at some point in time, if you're working out a couple hours a day, every day, you can get in phenomenal shape. It doesn't
Yeah.
take a lot to maintain that. Like once you get to that kind of a fitness, if you then work out, 1/5 of what you were historically, you can probably maintain a lot of that and you
Mm-hmm.
won't lose a lot. And you also can bounce back quickly. I mean, I think it's like running. If you're a 2 hour and 30-minute marathoner, you can get out of shape in a year easily, but you can probably get right back to that pretty quickly. Again, not to 2:30, but you can get back to a high level quickly than somebody who has never run before. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for muscle memory, and there's a bunch of studies that talk about what it takes to maintain, muscle and fitness, it's a lot less than what it takes to build muscle and fitness.
For sure. That just reminded me, and I think I told you this years ago, but I had read an article about Kira D'Amato. Same thing. I got clickbaited, right? And she's talking about how there was a point where she couldn't run for 3 minutes, and this was like right after she was setting, American records and things like that. It was like 3-4 years ago, whatever it was. I couldn't run for 3 minutes at a time, and now here she is, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can run for 30 minutes at a time, and like no way, right? Comes to find out, she was like, a Division I athlete, incredible, right? Like also set records in college and things like that. And then there was a period of time where she had kids and wasn't running. But in my head, I'm just like, oh wow, that's so achievable. And then I'm like, oh no, her baseline for starting was still, not that she's not incredible, obviously she is, but
Yeah.
her baseline for starting was way different than mine was.
Yeah, we all have a genetic sort of window that we're able to achieve, on our max potential is probably not world-class athlete.
No, for sure not, even if I spent hours a day. But yeah,
Yeah.
so there's that. Trying to figure out what I'm gonna do for my run today. I don't know.
I
Maybe an
think
easy
last time
run.
you were looking for animals, if I
Oh,
recall.
I have never found the skunk that I'm looking for, so it is just a continue thing to always be looking for the skunk. And I keep telling him like it's a nocturnal animal, like it's not going to be an easy feat. And now he's sending, I'll show you, sorry for anyone, there's no video, but this owl is now supposed to come with me to help because owls hunt at night and they, the whole nine. So it just gets more elaborate every time, and I come up short every time. So that's fun.
Well, that's probably a long history of disappointing your children.
Literally. And on that note, everybody, make sure you subscribe, 5-star rating. Since we are still like an English podcast, please share with your friends. Listen a bunch of times, leave us a review. Even if you have something negative to say, rate it 5 stars. So we'll see you. Bye.